Introductions. Most people in here will know who I am. I'm Conan, General Manager of the IT team. Tend to get a little bit involved in the sort of, I guess, more progressive areas of technology that we're trying out and testing, and obviously talking to new and existing customers about what they're doing with IT and what they're doing with AI. And Joe, what about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Joe, business systems consultant here at the IT team. Yeah, involved with CoPilot and ChatGPT from the get-go. Major advances over the last 2 years, I would say. But yeah, we'll get into it a bit more. Thanks everybody for joining.
Good one. In typical IT team fashion, we will probably go over time whilst talking too fast, and that is because there is a lot of content and we tend to be more worried about what we might miss out on than anything else. So we apologise in advance for that. But yeah, we try and cater to all. So ultimately, we will have, sorry, you can probably heard that because I've got the sound sharing, and also you can see me get distracted. We're trying to cater to those that have CoPilot and those that have not, and we think there will be a mix. As a little bit of a straw poll, if you could chuck in the chat, I'm quite curious to know who here is using, has a license for Microsoft Copilot for 365, so the paid $500, $600 a year license, and who he has not had it or had it before, does not have it or has not had it before. Feel free to just chuck a comment in the chat. We're trying to get a little bit of a straw poll. But while we're doing that, we think it might be, 50-50. There'll be some in here that don't have a license, some in here that do have one. There'll be some that are using the free edition, some that aren't, although so far every single person except for one has said they have a license. Oh, thank you. So we've got a bit of a mix. Now, what we are going to do is I think a lot of this topic will be around what is new since the beginning. So some elements of it, if you don't have a license for Copilot, you have not used it, you may feel, well, I'm learning about an advanced feature of something I don't quite understand. So we've tried to cater to both, but yeah, it's not the easiest, but we will do our best. So there are a few comments in there. The paid version, if you can use Copilot, it does not necessarily mean you have Copilot. There's something in the branding that Microsoft, I don't think they've done themselves any favors, because a lot of people think they've got Copilot because they have the icon on their desktop or in their browser. That is technically Copilot, but it's not Copilot for 365, the paid edition. So yeah, we'll touch a little bit on the confusion there, but yeah, a lot of this is, while we are covering both, ultimately when we're talking about Microsoft Copilot and our impressions 2 years on, we're ultimately talking about the paid edition mostly. It is that good return on investment for the audience. So if you have not used it and you are never going to buy it, some of this content may be a little bit less useful. But if you have it, or you're considering it, hopefully it will be useful for you. Right, we will continue. We've got a few extras. So today's session, we're going to talk about the different types of Copilot. We could get really deep on this, so we've tried to simplify it. We'll be talking mainly about free versus paid. We'll get into our journey just to give you a bit of background about us and our usage of it, and it will match yours in some cases, I'm sure. Throughout, we're going to ultimately trying to get into the good and the bad, what's working, what doesn't work, what's old, what's new, and all in between. We will be talking about Copilot Chat, which is the free edition, but it also has paid functions as well. And then Teams, Outlook, Word, PowerPoint, Excel, etc. We'll do a little bit on Copilot agents. We have a bit of a scorecard of where we think it's at, each function. and then we'll do a little bit on the security considerations, not configurations, and we'll have a little bit of time for Q&A, but you'll have time to do Q&A throughout. So just a little bit on our journey. So we, like many, we kind of were pretty, we eagerly awaited CoPilot once it was announced in 2023. We were already using ChatGPT. So when Microsoft started sharing marketing, I guess, videos, we thought this looks like it's going to really solve some problems and it's going to be impressive. As soon as it became available to us, was January 2024, we grabbed some licenses. Have been available to corporates before that, but technically it was only made available in late January 2024. We started with a small batch of staff, and like many organizations, we thought, wow, if it's going to have the return on investment, time savings, we'll probably roll it out to everyone. But we realized fairly quickly that we may be underwhelmed, and so we did not expand it to all staff. Since then, we've had multiple co-learns. Co-learns is a term we use for when we get a bunch of customers together and kind of share good practice with the tools, what's working with CoPilot. So we do it with AI, but also specifically CoPilot. We've been doing yearly webinars, at least. I think we've done 4, maybe 3. Technically, January 2024, that would mean that it hasn't been 2 years yet, but it was sort of started to be shown it was launched in late 2023, technically. We've done 3 webinars at least. We've done various pilot groups with customers and helped to complete some basic training. We try multiple times to use it as the primary model in the IT team because people, provided the data sensitivity policies are being followed, we have other tools that can be used. But using CoPilot solves a lot of problems because it's all in the same safe area, so to speak. But we have various use. Some people are big CoPilot users as their primary AI model, some aren't, but we try. AI policy we've created, we've evolved it, we've shared it, but that's obviously a big part of this. We have CoPilot agents. There are quite a lot of effort to get deployed, understand costing, etc. And we have several in production, which we will share one today. And yeah, that's kind of the journey. I think we have noticed recently that there is a perception and a bit of a reality that it has had a bit of an improvement recently. So just a little bit on CoPilot. So as we mentioned, it's very confusing in a way with Microsoft. They not only have very similar names for things that cost and things that don't cost, but then they also change those names. So CoPilot Chat on the left with web grounding. This here, which is in a browser, there's an app and the app on your desktop. This is ultimately the free version of CoPilot. Then you have CoPilot Chat with work grounding, and these 3, if you can see my cursor, are ultimately the paid versions of CoPilot. So Microsoft calls it Microsoft Copilot, and then Microsoft 365 Copilot. Used to be Microsoft Copilot for 365. So these, as you can see, the first two icon box things are very similar actually, but just one of them is more feature heavy than the other. But ultimately, we're going to be focusing on these 2 in the middle, the CoPilot Chat with work grounding and CoPilot apps. What I'd say the big takeaways for the audience here are, if you're not paying for CoPilot, we'd hope this would help you to go, is it worth it? And then if you are already paying for it, we're hoping that you may get some insight into some new features that exist that may be useful, or getting just a take on how we are seeing it, to understand if you need to maybe revisit certain elements, because it's very common for people to have a license and not really use it much, which might be why Ian mentioned earlier that he does no longer have a license. And then CoPilot Studio, really, that's about the agents, and we're going to touch on that lightly because we're going to do a dedicated webinar for agents very soon. As we mentioned, CoPilot free, it has web browsing ability. it does have a commercial data protection element. So if you have CoPilot free and you're using it and you are signed in properly, and that's I don't think we'll get into that as far as what that looks, but if you aren't signed in, technically you don't have the data protection, but if you are signed in, you have the data protection, which means that if you're entering something, you can be confident that it's not being shared publicly. So CoPilot Free does have some protections in place, but it is limited, whereas CoPilot the 365, it has the enterprise grade data protection. I wouldn't imagine that commercial and enterprise are wholly impactful. The difference between them is a massive deal. It's probably just the level of guarantees it has. But then it has the CoPilot app. So the Microsoft 365 apps with CoPilot is really the center of this $30 fee. And it's $30 US. So we're gonna show a video. What this is we realize there are some people in this room, maybe not as many as I thought, that will never have used CoPilot and maybe have never seen it. Now this video is it's earlier this year, so it's not the original incredible looking CoPilot video, but it is a marketing tool. But it will take about 48 seconds or something, whereas if we were to demonstrate the basic functions of CoPilot, it'd take us about 20 minutes. So considering how fast we are. So I'm just going to share this video today, which is Microsoft's kind of very, very quick, light demo of the 365 apps and CoPilot.
Microsoft 365 Copilot opens a new world of possibilities, allowing you to co-innovate, accomplish complex tasks, and sort through the noise. Now, Copilot is faster, more accurate, more intuitive, and customizable. Copilot simplifies tasks to amplify your impact. Copilot is the UI for AI at work.
It's pretty fast, isn't it, Joe? It might be too fast.
That looks amazing.
Yeah, I don't know. I reckon the old one looked better, but it sort of allowed you to actually see what was going on. Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out how to get to the next damn thing without starting. Oh, goodness me. Okay, I'll just reshare. Marketing. Oh, brilliant. And back. Oh, my goodness. You can see what I'm doing. Okay, so CoPilot 365, marketing versus reality. I just have to hide the actual window so I can see everything. So on that video, it was actually so fast that I think Microsoft even didn't allow enough time for you to see whether it would work. It technically can do all those things that it showed. The proof is in how well it does it, how easy it is, and how much time it actually can save you versus doing it yourself. Usually it's how well it can do it that is the problem, and sometimes it's how long it takes it to do it. But we would say on paper, all those functions can work, and in 2025, it's closer to what you would have hoped when you first saw that video, even though that video is 2025, but it resembles the original 2023 one. It's closer to that than it was in 2023, where it felt like it was borderline, less exaggerated and borderline false advertising. So we're just going to continue on, but that should give you, if you haven't seen CoPilot, a bit of a snapshot about what it's trying to do. So one of the key function within CoPilot is CoPilot Chat. And in a way, if you've used ChatGPT, that ChatGPT is a chat function. It's got a few extra add-ons, but CoPilot is Microsoft's version of ChatGPT ultimately, but it does integrate with a bunch of things. Now, as we might have said earlier, if you've got the free edition, it's very simple, whereas if you've got the paid edition, it integrates with your data sets and various apps. So, Joe, do you want to talk about this?
Yep. So, like anything in life, as it progresses, it gets better. So at the start at GPT-4, and then a year and a half later moved over to a better and faster and cheaper model. So pricing did come down initially. And then as of recently, now August, the release of ChatGPT or GPT-5 model, and then systematically that first of all started out with the paid versions of CoPilot, but then systematically would be made available to the other versions as well. The only Microsoft product not immediately impacted or have the capability of GPT-5 is the agents, but that would also be available in time. So for us internally, we definitely saw a marked improvement in the capabilities of CoPilot since it's got the GPT-5 model capabilities, and we were just generally more likely to use the product that it's now that it's on GPT-5 than previously.
Yeah, it actually is in the agents mode, Joe. You can sort of test it rather than being sort of the standard, but it is there. But ultimately, there is a subtle improvement that we have noticed as it's moved from the getting closer to using GPT-5.
Yep, some of the tech jargon on screen there. We're not going to go into all of them one by one, but if you wanted to have a moment and take a screenshot if you wanted to, but all it means is just there's major advances, so it's better in all aspects basically, and there's only one model now, which just makes it so much easier. Let's carry on. If for those that may be a bit unsure on how to access it, so in your Edge browser, top right hand corner, you should have the CoPilot icon there that you can select and then interact with the product. And then also in your Windows desktop on the taskbar, there's a little button there for CoPilot as well.
There might be. Not
yeah. Yeah. And then for the licensed versions, that's got CoPilot for M365, same thing in the taskbar. Could not be there. You can enable it. The big difference is obviously in your apps in the ribbon, you will see the CoPilot icon there. And then also same as with Edge in the top right hand corner, but it'll look a bit different now. You can see there, I'm signed into the browser there, and then there will be some hints that you are now signed in. You can see the enterprise data protection, little green shield is there to make sure that your data is protected. You've got the two options there between web grounding and work grounding. And then right at the bottom, there's a hint there that you have got the premium CoPilot features enabled.
Very good. So, Kathy, I guess we'll show some features soon, like within Outlook and Teams, etc. And if you would like to see if you can do those things, or at least see if you can see some of the icons, they'll probably tell you if you have it. As we said earlier, it is confusing. So CoPilot new features. Do you want to talk about
I am just going to share my screen quickly here.
So we're going to show two functions that are visible in the chat area that are effectively built-in AI agents. One is researcher and analyst. Go for gold.
So these popped up in the last couple of months. So Microsoft has really moved the needle here with this new functionalities within the chat. So if you would normally go to portal.office.com to get onto your M365 web portal, when you go there now, you get to this default landing page. So the big advances here are these two built-in agents, pre-built agents that Microsoft has released called Researcher and Analyst. Now the Researcher one, just as it says, a bit more focused on research specifically. So I would equate that if you're using ChatGPT to the deep research function. And I have recently put it through its paces where I had to do a bit of an investigation about threat intelligence feeds. I did it the same prompt in both of these platforms, got the results, and then after that, I went to each platform and asked it to compare the outputs of the two platforms and then give me a verdict on which one did a better job. Now, I started off with CoPilot. Surprisingly, it said it did a better job than ChatGPT. And I said, okay, cool, that's probably expected. Went back to ChatGPT, did the exact same prompt there, asked it, and it said that CoPilot did a better job. So I was somewhat surprised, but my key takeaway there is that the researcher pre-built AI agent in Copilot Chat now is on par with the ChatGPT one. It's really good. For the analyst pre-built agent, specifically focused at analytics, your finance stuff, data, numbers and so forth. I had something similar built for me in ChatGPT, which I found a bit problematic at times, and I thought I'd give this a go. It's really good. I must say, I'm leaning towards using the analyst for this type of function now, whereas previously I used ChatGPT. This is a really good financial data analytics type tool that they've got. Then one of my favorite features at the moment is this new create feature, where you can create images where, historically ChatGPT wasn't really good at, Copilot wasn't really good at creating images. We always used to go back. Yeah, we also used to go back to ChatGPT and use Sora or other tools. But what's really good now is you've got different styles that you can pick from. You can also start adding your brand, your organizational brand and color templates to be used in creating images. This works to an extent. So what we've realized is it uses the colors and so forth. So that's pretty good. But as for icons and fonts and that type of thing, it's not there yet, but it's a really good step up from where it used to be.
It should be, because when you're adding the brain kit, it asks you for logos and font and everything, but it just doesn't seem to nail it.
It doesn't on-flow it from there.
Yeah.
Another really cool thing is create a video. So you can create a video directly from like a Word document or a PowerPoint presentation. So for those that know Microsoft Clipchamp, it uses that technology to do this. So in the past, for me personally, I had a PowerPoint presentation. And if I wanted to create a movie or a little video from it, I had to export all the slides and then import it into Clipchamp and then do it manually. This is all automated now. So this, again, big step up from where it used to be. It's got cool stuff with infographics. There's a couple of designs that you can have a look there. Also poster designs. It's really moved the needle here. So if you haven't played around with this, if you have a license, please check it out. It's pretty good, I would say. There's one downside to this one, and it's just a bit slow. If you do ask it to create an image, go and do something else or start with another task, because if you wait for it, it is a bit slow. But that's the only downside that I've got with it currently. Let's move on, Conan.
Cool. So Joe just really showed these in a bit of demo. Do you want to talk about the Copilot voice function, Joe?
Yeah, the voice activation is also a fairly new addition to the capabilities. You have to enable it. It's not active by default. And it works the same way as what Alexa or Siri would. You just say, hey, Copilot, and it'll pop up. I must say it does get a bit in the way if you're busy with talking to people and you mentioned the word Copilot, or it picks up the word and then it starts interacting with you. I haven't tested it extensively, but from the little interactions I've had with it, I would say it's in the beginning infant stages of capabilities, but it is there.
So recommendation is try it, but not
you can try it.
Webinar on Copilot.
Yeah, indeed.
Very good. Touch on this, Joe.
A quick one. Yep, this is fairly new as well. Copilot Actions. We have not tried it as of yet. It's also very, very new. More moving towards automation and doing multiple tasks at the same time. We might touch on this in Agents webinar later, but it is a new feature as well.
The idea is it's a Gentek automation. So the idea will be that you'll be able to ask it to do things on your computer, and it will kind of click around and take control. So as you can see, those examples on the right, possible. Microsoft is so concerned about sort of security and impact that I have a feeling anything you get it to do is going to be semi pre-approved. But yeah, at the moment it's restricted for our sort of tech policy, so we can't test it yet. But we know it's coming, so it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
some of the new features with settings. So, I mean, we've had a lot of feedback, or there's been a lot of requests online about shortcomings with CoPilot, about, personalization and wanting your agent or your CoPilot to, if it responds to, say, emails, to respond like you. So Microsoft has introduced these features. First off, there's a custom instructions one where you can go and give it a bit of information on how Copilot chat must respond to you. Say, must it be bullet points? Do you want it in a table format? What's the type of tone and stuff? So you can start building out some functions on how you want the product or the technology to respond to you. Let's just go a couple of clicks on it, please. And then also Copilot memory, which is also part of the personalization, where the input that you give or submit to the tool, it'll start remembering it. And so later on, when you do a similar prompt or prompt that has reference to that previously, it'll take that context and then take that into consideration on how it responds, which I think is also then leaning towards being more context aware or user aware in how it responds to you. So definitely moving in the right direction. There's been lots of requests for this.
If you have Copilot for 365 and you don't have anything in custom instructions, it probably is something that you can have a pretty big leap forward on it, giving you just more of what you want and the style you want. So we'd definitely encourage you to that, because you're probably missing out on getting better responses and maybe sharper responses even. Just even talking about, based in New Zealand, what type of language you like, it can help a lot. We'll continue. So now we're going to dig into the actual applications, which is really the heart of Copilot for 365. Well, I guess the chat is a lot of it, but people tend to have looked to the applications for their gains. So where was this? So Copilot and Teams, where was it 2 years ago? So our take, if we even go back to our previous webinar 2 years ago, the transcription, the summaries, the core function of Copilot and Teams. And when I say Copilot and Teams, I'm primarily thinking of the meetings rather than the chat and stuff. That worked well, and it did give decent to good summaries and actions. Generally, this function of providing notes for your meetings was the main sort of key return on investment for Copilot at launch. We would have probably decided to get rid of licenses if that didn't work as well as it did. Spoiler alert for some of the other, where was that, 2 years ago, I guess. But ultimately, the Copilot in Teams was the kind of slight shining light on productive benefits there. If we fast forward to today, 2 years on, those transcriptions and summaries, the quality has improved. Also, the layout, how it splits it and breaks it up, has improved. And the interactivity has improved. So you can jump, I'll be able to show something soon, but you can jump to the meeting point based on what was said. So it has definitely just step by step improved. There's some new features that are really useful. The facilitator mode is genuinely good. It kind of basically, I mean, the main thing is it tells you to hurry up. And you haven't talked about XYZ. It's not completely new, but it's sort of only started to force itself into meetings, in the last sort of 3 or 4 months, I guess. There's also a relatively new audio recap function, which is quite nifty, and I will show that as well. I'm yet to decide if it's gimmicky or useful, but it is there. The ability to access and share recaps with your team members has improved. Notifications when you're in a meeting are more clear. And what we mean by that is if one of the attendees of this webinar joined a meeting with us and we turn on Copilot transcription, it's a bit more clear that it's on. It's there's probably still work they could do there, but at least you can tell that there are notifications, and it has a bit of a privacy policy and that type of thing. The other thing is, if Joe has a meeting with Kemp, I think he was in here before. Joe has a meeting with Kemp and they invite me and I'm unable to attend. I can click follow on the meeting invite, and that will allow me to access the notes for the meeting and other things. And so that is actually quite a useful function. Where is it underwhelming, or what's underwhelming? If I had a meeting with someone here over Teams, and we both had Teams and we both had CoPilot, the person that booked the meeting would get the power of the CoPilot, recap and summary and notes. The other person doesn't get anything, and that is a bit of a frustration, because it usually means if you haven't booked a meeting, you've got to depend on the other person to email it to you or not. And I think it is a bit unusual because you obviously both have CoPilot. So I think Microsoft will be working on that, but they are more concerned about security and privacy than they probably are about features being available. And I think that is the issue. It's when you've got two people and maybe two countries where they've got different laws. I have a feeling that's part of this issue. Just generally, the data access and permissions, the ability to search and access other transcriptions is kind of still got some issues and lack of clarity. And you can't edit a transcription or a meeting note. At least that's my understanding of it, unless they've released a feature recently. So what I mean by that is, if I'm in a meeting and I check the CoPilot summary of the meeting and it says, Canon said this, which is pretty common. Actually, it wouldn't probably say that, because if I'm in the meeting, it knows who I am, but it might mishear the accent or my terribly slovenly way of pronouncing things and have it incorrect, particularly someone's name or the name of a company. You can't sort of chat to CoPilot and say, could you please change company name A to company name B? It just doesn't do that. Once it's done, it's there. You can ask it questions about the content or about the meeting, but you can't sort of edit, which seems a bit of a shame. So you then have to take it outside of the meeting and then edit it and then send it on if it was an important meeting. So I'm going to do a little bit of a demo. I'm just going to reshare because I've taken off the audio. Tiny demo here. So this here is a meeting we did, or it's actually a webinar we did a week ago on apps and AI agents. But this is what CoPilot in Teams looks like to a degree, as far as what you will get if you have it enabled for a meeting. So in this meeting, there is a transcription that was generated, and that then effectively CoPilot generates an AI summary of the meeting. So you can see here it's broken it down into different parts. And what this is doing, for those that haven't used this, is it's every word that I'm speaking, including right now, not the AI, but I guess the Teams' audio to text function is creating a transcript, and then CoPilot, or the AI, is trying to interpret what I mean. If you have a look at the raw transcript, it does have a lot of errors. It gets words wrong, but the AI does a decent job of tidying it up. It particularly tidies up the context. It struggles with names occasionally, but this here is actually a pretty bang-on set of notes for what the meeting contained. You can, as I said, you can drill into it, and even then, I could click on certain things somewhere, and it will actually it'll jump to the point. If I click play, it'll jump to the point in the meeting. So you can get quite deep into it. But generally, what will happen is you'll copy this, and then you'll email it to someone. Now, if I were to go into CoPilot, I can actually interrogate the meeting. I won't. I could say I wouldn't be able to ask if Alex had shaved, but I can probably ask, did Alex mention any food he likes to eat? Whoops, can't write. I probably should have come up with a better question, but I didn't think of one. So it'll be interesting to see if it tries to use the CoPilot, the meeting, or it's going to try to use CoPilot somewhere else. But because the way that I've accessed this is a bit unorthodox. So yeah, it's reviewed it and it doesn't say, it says at no point. But if it did, it would have. Now I'll just go into the actual audio recap. So this is just over here. So this is a newish feature and allows you to where are they? It allows you to, I'm not sure why it's doing that. Oh, here we go. I've got it here. So it allows you to generate an AI audio recap. It's kind of trying to take a page out of the Notebook AI, Notebook LLM, or whatever it is, the Google one. It's effectively doing a podcast version of a meeting. So this webinar that we did, it summarizes into a 10-minute audio recording like a podcast or something.
Hi, Conan. Today is Wednesday, November 12th, 2025. We'll be walking through the AI Agents and App Builders practice run, led by Conan Daly, where the team demonstrated custom agents in action, covering everything from research and policy retrieval to building recipe and rate card tools, along with a closer look at CoPilot Studio, security, and rapid app development.
AI Builders practice run focused on showcasing how custom agents can research, policy advice, and everyday tasks, with live demos illustrating practical use cases.
The team explored both individual and organizational deployment.
Okay, you kind of get the gist. So you can change it to executive style, newscast, or casual. It's the one thing that is actually quite cool is you can listen on mobile quite quickly. I tried that a couple of weeks ago. I was like, oh, it would allow you to quickly put it on your mobile if you wanted. But yeah, this is just a reasonably new feature that I could see as being quite useful if they continue to develop it. We'll continue on. So CoPilot and Outlook, where was it 2 years ago? So just from a feature point of view, all it did really was allowed you to draft email replies and new messages, and it summarized your email threads, and that is about it when it launched. The email draft was poor, obvious. It didn't have it. It kind of seemed all quite similar. It's a bit soulless. It always finished emails with beast, comma, which I'm not sure who writes like that. Hopefully no one in here. It just generally wasn't very usable and was a bit too basic. And also it didn't work on classic Outlook, which caused a lot of stress. Although based on this, they weren't missing that much, but it was a feature that, people did get frustrated with. If you jump to present day, it's improved in writing and drafting. It has gotten more personal. It's gotten more customizations. You can add the draft instructions, as we talked about. It's got its own draft instructions. I think if you are doing or you wanted to try emails, you could feel free to do that. Well, no, not you can feel free. It would be highly recommended to do that. The schedule with CoPilot works. It's not perfect. It doesn't sort of act as like a PA or something. It really just helps to improve the meeting. Particularly if you've got an email and you want to schedule a meeting based off that email, it kind of creates an agenda and attaches any attachments and that type of thing. CoPilot Chat is part of Outlook. So what I've found that's actually really useful is a chat function. So I can sort of ask if I've communicated with this company, and it will find it from 2016, 2018. And to be honest, the search function in Outlook often won't. So it is quite useful. What's underwhelming? I mean, generally the personalization. I don't think there's anyone at the IT team that is using this in their email responses. And that's not like an edict or anything. It's not something that we said don't do it. It's just, I think people had found that it wasn't doing a tremendous job and sort of haven't sort of come back to it. Because if it doesn't sound like you and it adds things that don't really make sense, it's hard to use. It could be that we are judging it on 2024, not late 2025 though. However, we have noticed, like when we get messages from people, I'd say Microsoft as an example, where they're not on this meeting, but sometimes you get an email from Microsoft, a response, and you can kind of tell it's written in CoPilot, and it does give you a bit of a, oh yeah, okay, feeling. We're not saying that you should never use this to send emails, respond to emails. AI tools can really help with writing, and expanding and improving your email. It's more around, if you are emailing, you kind of need it to be done well. And also the smart meeting suggestions. You could see that CoPilot in Outlook could really help with meeting timing, organizing, and finding slots in people's calendars beyond just looking for the nearest available slot. It could get quite smart, and it could sort of email other people's co-pilots. It's just not there, but that is something that it should be able to do. I'll just do like a very, 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 very quick email demonstration. So if you have CoPilot in 365, and so this could be a question for Kathy, you will see Draft with CoPilot. You may have the CoPilot app visible in your app, but if you can't do this, then you don't really have it. So I'm going to give Joe some feedback. So I think I'll do a short and friendly message saying, giving Joe great feedback. Today's webinar. Like my dad, I'm not that good at giving regular feedback, but let's see how this goes. So it's now writing an email. I would say it likely would do better in a reply than a fresh email because it just has no context. Yep. It also usually will do it pretty fast. Interesting. It's not liking something going on with me sharing. I will copy that and I'll do another one. 1 moment, please. You want? Oh, it's done it. Okay. So, hi Joe, you're doing well. I wanted to drop you a note to say impressed I was to say this webinar. The insights you shared were truly invaluable. So, that's not true. No, just kidding, Joe. but if I'm being honest, it doesn't know that. Your expertise and ability to communicate complex ideas in an accessible manner made the webinar a great success. Now, we definitely know that it's lying, don't we, Joe? No, I'm kidding. I would say that it's better on a reply. You can sort of tell, but it has generated an email. And when you get an email like that from Microsoft that's generated from this, and it has some like over enthusiastic sort of commentary on you, you kind of go, oh, okay, that's interesting. Maybe it takes away a little bit of the shine on the compliments. Anyway, that was just a very brief demonstration of it. I won't demonstrate the advanced things, and the reason I won't demonstrate them is anything I do is probably going to expose personal information about others. So we'll move on to PowerPoint. Joe, do you want to continue?
Yep. PowerPoint at the start, pretty basic. I initially thought it was pretty good. Over and above Teams that we knew had great value right from the start with the recap functions and so forth, I thought PowerPoint was probably the second best capable function that CoPilot could do for one of the Microsoft Cloud apps. But as we started working with it more and more and more, we started to realize there's a couple of gaps here as we progressed. And initially, small documents, or how we started with to create presentations from, it did a pretty decent job. But the more complex documents came, it didn't do so well. So it'd leave out some other, especially if there were schematics and tables in the document and a drawing or so forth, it would leave those things out, not add them into the presentation, which was a bit disappointing. The other big thing was the branding part, which we know we've mentioned before. We just couldn't get it to like reference a branding file to pull it in, so we always needed to go and do some stuff afterwards. And then, as also mentioned previously, the visuals. If we wanted to add in a picture or create a picture, create an image, there was always issues with it, or it'll select from its stock images, which aren't very good. Yeah. It's like mid-90s stuff, so it doesn't look very modern, and so it's pretty awful. And then lots of stuff, especially if it created the initial presentation for you, and you went down and you wanted it to go and change stuff or edit stuff, it would just say no, sorry, it wouldn't be able to do it. So it's quite finicky at the start, and just lots of errors with, sorry, I can't do that, or I'm not allowed, or some error related to it. But with all these issues, I still, leaning towards PowerPoint was a pretty good effort at the start.
Mm. The branding function actually didn't exist in the
Yeah,
first sort of month or two, but then it added it, and it was poor, as Joe
yeah,
said there. The sorry I can't do that was a real problem, because we didn't know if it was that it was glitching or it actually wasn't able to do it, and so sometimes you would come to the conclusion that what you are asking Copilot to do, and I recall this in PowerPoint a lot. What you were asking Copilot to do, it just couldn't do it. You were asking it to do something that wasn't possible, but you would later try that again and it would work. And so you'd realize it was a glitch, which created a lot of distrust and frustration. And I think that is a real problem. I think Microsoft having better error messaging would have seriously improved people's perception of the product. Continuing present day, Joe.
Yep. Like I'd say with any of the other products, it's markedly improved. So again, more features that's available, and it just looks more polished and supported. Definitely the design and visuals have taken a step forward. So I do tend to use it at, wherever I can. PowerPoint and Copilot in PowerPoint is my go-to for this type of thing. And if you really think about it, for those that have used ChatGPT and asked it to, once it's done some content for you, to create a slide deck and put it in PowerPoint, it does a pretty poor job. It's not great at all. So if you have to compare PowerPoint or Copilot in PowerPoint and the way ChatGPT creates slides or a slide deck, there's no comparison really. Copilot and PowerPoint, it does a way better job. So it's pretty good. There are other better products, in the market, but PowerPoint is, I won't say it's setting the bar, but it's a good solid product, I would say. And the branding, like I said, with the chat, they're moving more towards branding, incorporating branding or making branding available for you to use in a business environment. And I'm pretty sure we're going to have those options with PowerPoint in the not too distant future. Yeah.
Tome I've tried is another one, the recent one I tried that escapes me, but they probably do a better job, but only a little bit better than PowerPoint these days, if you have the patience. But I mean, there's something to be said. Okay, in the kind of sci-fi future that we probably imagined once upon a time, the idea that, hey, we have this document and we could have something automatically convert that into a presentation seemed brilliant, right? It seemed good. I think what we've realized is that doesn't necessarily make a great presentation. if it compared with if you are manually making it. When you're manually making a presentation, you are adding knowledge, you are making decisions on what content is the most savvy for the audience. And so even if Copilot gets to the point where it does a tremendous job with making presentations, it's not going to be as good as you patiently doing it yourself. But can it be as good as you doing it in a hurry? And I think it can be better in that case.
So for sure.
Yeah, that's the challenge with a lot of these tools, actually. Just quickly on the underwhelming stuff, Joe. You might have
So we're expecting a bit more, I would say, from what the actual product can offer at the moment. But there's been lots of advances. Brand alignment is still an issue, but generally we are on the up here. So let's move on.
Audience, so I'm keen to know what you guys think of some of these tools. If you've had a good or bad experience, feel free to chuck your feedback in.
I can do a quick. Do we have time for that PowerPoint? Yep. For those that do not have a license or have not seen the capability of creating a presentation from a file, I can quickly show us that if my machine just wakes up one day. Ooh. These Teams Meetings always, it takes a lot of resources. Okay, cool. So I've got a blank PowerPoint open here, and I'm referencing a dummy file that I use for training, and we are just going to ask CoPilot to create us a slide presentation based on that Word document. So first off, there it goes, and it's done an overview or outlay of what it's going to do. And then I'm going to ask it to create the slides. So like Colin said, if you go and do this and you've got a lot of time to spend, you would possibly do a better job with this. But if you want to get there quick and say 50% of the way, then Copilot in PowerPoint it does a pretty good job. Okay, so there it's starting to design and starting to put the slides in place. It's got quite a bit of slides. And come on, I know we're a bit time poor at the moment. Let's go. Hurry up. You can do it.
Did you cancel
Something's
it?
happening. No,
No. Cancel.
I did not. But I think it's disappeared. Oh, there it is. Ah, there it is. Okay, cool.
That's your old one, is it? Oh, no, there you
No, this is a new one. Okay, so there it's popped up the slides. Let's go down here. So yeah, it's added some of its stock images as well. Yeah, I mean, as a start, if you do presentations or you've never played with it, it's definitely it's a big step forward for you if you need to create a presentation.
So if you would
with
have done that
CoPilot.
with the IT team branding, would it have done it differently?
Like I said, it's a bit of a hit and miss there still. It
Okay.
doesn't do it really well. But I'm adamant. I think it's going to be pretty soon. We are going to get great results there with branding.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll just continue.
What was next?
Word.
Yeah. Word, I would say at the start of it, yeah, it was, I'd say, a bit of a miss. Also, I couldn't find a lot of value in it at the time. You know, it did a bit of drafting. You could reference a file, and it could do some writing for you. Also, mainly used if you did some stuff and you wanted to review it and fix it or make it more professional. That's what we would typically use it for. But at the time, ChatGPT did such a good job with that. I think we basically overlooked Word for these functions. The summary of some of the documents, if you wanted it to summarize documents, also it was a bit hit and miss at the time, and also buggy. With sorry, I cannot do this, I can't help you, I can't change that. So also buggy.
Just like in
PowerPoint. So yes, many improvements for Word now. Big one, you can have the chat function now in Word. And then the big one, you've got that cross application reference or expanded integration. So you can go and reference a meeting or an email or a specific file and pull that into Word for it to interact with it. So it's pretty good like that. And on top of that, you can go and also pull in anything from your Copilot chat. So you can go and pull that agents that I've got on screen, and you can pull that into your Word document, or you can pull a chat history. So yeah, it's basically just expanding the net of where it can get into. So the integration part of it has really stepped up. Yep, the cannot read or cannot edit thing is still I think that's an issue across the apps. It's difficult, or it must be a data protection type policy that Microsoft has, that you've got to go and edit it manually. Some manual effort is still needed. Some of the glitches are gone, but although they're still there.
So if Joe, to give an example of that, Joe created that PowerPoint. If he was to say, could you change the font to XYZ, it may be able to do it. But if he was to say, get rid of slides 4 to 6,
Yeah.
slide 10, I want you to rework the content in there, it wouldn't do it. it'll just say no, and that's really disappointing. It kind of wants to create more than edit ultimately, or generate might be the better term.
Yep.
Okay, why don't we shuffle into? Or did you want to talk about this?
No. Excel. We've got a couple. So yeah, Excel. Yep. It was not released mainstream with the other product offerings, Word and Outlook and Teams and PowerPoint. It was only released a couple of months after. My guess is they really struggled to get this up to a point, the product up to a point where it was good for public release or public available. At the offset, it wasn't great at all. So I remember in the beginning where I had to demo this, I used some of Microsoft's demos, and if I tried that same functionality with my dummy data, it just wouldn't be able to do it. So it was just a complete miss, Excel in the beginning. I don't think anybody used it. Lots of issues. And I think the little bot there on screen, I have no idea what I'm doing, is basically captures CoPilot in Excel in the beginning. It was just subpar by a long shot.
Joe, you've used CoPilot to generate these images, is that right? And it's using our sort of
these are
branding
CoPilot.
colours?
Yeah, these are CoPilot with our branding colors. Yeah.
So the colors it's tried to use is, if you see the logo in the office that Joe is in, the very flash sort of glass office, it's kind of using those colors, and it's quite interesting to see them. I guess it hasn't had any issues with using the license. Did you get the license approval from Steven Spielberg for Back to the Future logo, Joe? Or,
I did not.
Or it might not be Robert
Oopsie.
Zemeckis or whoever his name is. Yeah. So sometimes it will struggle with that, but it doesn't seem to always. So anyway,
but yeah,
and
in saying that, it was the worst of the product offerings, but that also made it the one with the most advances over the last couple of 2 years. It has improved a lot. Analytics, insights, data visualization, and there's even reports that we get now that we've got finance teams. People are actually starting to use this, so the value is there. It's moved the bar quite a lot. So I would say it's just about ready to be used now for sure. Yep. So yep, we still got issues with if you feed it large amounts of data, it basically just topples over. So I've seen that I have to basically split data and then do it in smaller chunks for it to function properly. Some of the errors still don't exactly know what it means, but now CoPilot has also moved on where it now assists you with a specific error. So it shows up an error and then asks you if it can assist you with, giving you insights on what the issue is, and now you must fix it, which is a bit weird, but it is there. It's moving forward. And then still just customization is still lacking, but we'll get there.
We also noticed the spelling mistake in this error message, and we're not sure what the hell is going on there. But anyway, CoPilot agents. So we'll do this quickly because we are going to be doing a webinar soon on CoPilot agents. When I say soon, December or February, we'll just decide. So CoPilot agents is its own meaty topic, and so it's worthy of a solid hour, 45 minutes to an hour. So we'll just touch on this briefly, Joe.
Yeah, at the offset, there was no CoPilot agents whatsoever, or agents whatsoever, and other platforms as well. And over the last years, the buzzword for the beginning of 2025 was that AI agents was going to be the big, buzzword for the year, is getting those agents working. What are the productivity gains? So there's lots of agents available now across the board. So a CoPilot agent in the Microsoft product suite, or a GPT if you're using ChatGPT, but they're basically the same thing. Yeah.
So an example agent, this is one of ours that we've built. We've got it sitting in our Teams. If you see that UI, that's on the left in Teams, automatically deployed. So this agent is a really simple one. Policy agent. It effectively interrogates the IT team's policies. It's live in our team and working, accessible, reviews the policies that we've got, dozen or so policies. It will interact with them, and if there's if the question intersects, sort of hits two intersecting policies, it will give an answer based on that. So you might have something about working from home or whatever. but this is a functional agent, and effectively what this is our staff can ask questions. They don't require a CoPilot agent. We'll get into that in the future. They can ask questions that interact with our policies in real world language, and then they can get an answer here. So as you can see with the example, I didn't actually know we had a jury duty policy, but we do. It surprised me a little bit when I heard we did. So even though I probably signed it. So yeah, but this is we just thought we'd explain an example agent because you don't really know what it is if you don't see it. We'll probably just skip this, Joe. Creating agents is quite easy. It uses AI to help you generate the content, and so you kind of gives you a real head start if you're going to try an agent. But yeah, we're going to have content on agents in the near future, so stay tuned. Joe, continue.
Yep. I mean, we're struggling to keep up with the features and functionality at the moment. I mean, it's just not just with Microsoft Copilot, it's across the board. It's really, really tough, but it's good. It's good that technology is moving really fast and is going in the right direction. We really like that create feature. Like I said earlier, please go and try it if you've got a license. It's pretty entertaining. Even for your family members, they would love it too. I know my daughters loves it. Main big thing is the gap between Copilot and ChatGPT, definitely smaller than what it was a year ago. It's now a product that we can actually start using. Our agents that we've started to play with since the beginning of this year, opportunities for productivity for sure, and then we've got all kinds of questions as the norm with data privacy and risk, and Copilot is giving the stamp of approval in that space for sure.
It simplifies it if you've got data in in SharePoint and using Copilot, you just don't need to worry as much about what's happening with that. Whereas if you're using tools like ChatGPT, you've got to be concerned. Challenges, Joe.
Yeah, I think the main thing people want is the month-to-month subscription, where we can have it and we can try it out, we can play with it in January and let it go in February if we want to, like any of the other platforms. Although month-to-month is available to pay now, it's still an annual commitment. So you locked in for 12 months. I hope they're going to change that really. Like I said, there's a bit of assumptions out there in the wild with, the capabilities of Copilot and what it has access to. We'll cover that in the slide down below. Another big thing that we've picked up is there's common file types that Copilot can't interact with, like an MP4 or even other Microsoft-specific extensions, which is really, frustrating that it can't work with them. The AI agents, there's big talk about productivity gains, but we don't exactly know yet where that's going to fit in or how that's going to work. The branding, like we mentioned before, and we want Copilot to be able to edit and make changes on the fly. It's not that big a deal or bigger ask, but somehow it's a thing. And then it's difficult to determine what the productivity gains is with these tools. We get them, we play with them. Are we getting value for money? And how do we measure it? What's the metrics around it? I know Microsoft has some stuff, but there's still some questions and answers around that space.
The productivity stuff around agents, it's very clear that there's a lot of potential there. It's just most of the use case for us of the policies, that's probably not going to make the IT team go faster. It's going to help staff though, but it's not going to, allow us to solve support challenges yet. And that stuff, in the future, you can see it, but right now it's a wee way away. So updated report cards. So this kind of is pretty much our report card from the first webinar we did on Copilot. So I think we had Teams chat at C-, which is because it wasn't as useful. Very clear our staff, if you were using Copilot, you would feel like you were using a significantly weaker cousin of ChatGPT. It was safer, but it just couldn't do as much. The Teams recap was really the shining light there. We gave that a B+. It might have been an A-, I'm not sure, but it was high. It's scaled down for inflation or deflation. Outlook email assistants. We wrote email systems because that's all it would do, and that was definitely a D. It was D for disappointing. PowerPoint was a C, and the reason we had as a C is it could give you a head start on if you've got a document converting into a PowerPoint. It could give you a head start. I think I use the analogy that if you had a document and you were about to go to a meeting internally, like we're not talking the most important meeting of the year, but if you're about to go to a meeting and you thought, oh, I don't really want to scroll through this document, using CoPilot to turn that into a PowerPoint is a genuine function that worked okay back then and works better now. Word was a D just because so many glitches, and Excel was an E, and that ultimately was E for experimental, I guess, because it didn't have any features.
Yeah, that's good.
Where it's at now is Teams chat is genuine, a B. I would say, that might be a little bit harsh. We have staff in the IT team that believe that CoPilot gives them better results than ChatGPT, but then we also, if we were to grade it on usage and kind of how well people agree, believe it is a top tier chat system, I would say it's a B. A third, maybe 2/3. Teams recapping, that's definitely elevated, and that's continued to improve. That is an A. Is no doubt if you do a lot of Teams meetings, a lot of online meetings, it's almost like a CoPilot is a no-brainer as far as value. It continues to get better. It is good. It's just as good as any other tools, in our opinion now. A little bit less customization, but it is very good. Outlook is getting better, mainly because of the features that aren't writing emails, to do with the booking features, the ability to use the chat function for search. But the email part is, from our point of view, the jury's out still. So we give it a bit of a C+. B for PowerPoint, it is better. It is working. And as I said earlier, if you had to go to a meeting, you've got a little bit of time, it will do it. It's got some branding functions, not as many as we would like. So it's got a wee way to go. And then Word and Excel give a bit of a C, although those are ones that I don't use a ton. Foundations and security, just a couple of things. So for CoPilot, the more data you have in 365, the better. If you are using Dropbox, if you are using Google, if you have a file server, CoPilot can interact with that data. So getting your data within 365 is going to help. Having that data well structured also helps. The policy agent example we used before, if you were to try and do that with various documents that are spread all over the place in someone's OneDrive, stored in different teams and groups, it's going to be a lot harder to build that agent. So having good foundations, having data well structured and organized is good. Security, review of the SharePoint permissions is beneficial. Now, we just touch on something Joe mentioned earlier. If Joe uses his agent and I have a special share in SharePoint that's not accessible to him, CoPilot's not going to allow him to access that. That's not the risk. If I have some maybe documents that I didn't sort of think too much were sensitive and they are in a folder that he does have access to, CoPilot is going to make it more likely that he is going to find that document, because it's just scanning. It's like having someone scanning things all the time. So reviewing your SharePoint visions to make sure only the right people have access to the right places and the data is in a decent state is definitely a beneficial thing for avoiding exposure. But the security of CoPilot is really more of a privacy issue, and it's more of an internal privacy issue. The external threats, the idea of your CoPilot being hacked, it's just not really there. You don't have to concern yourself with that. The risk is accidental privacy stuff internally. Joe, did you want to touch on this at all?
Yeah, so the only two important things here is if you've got a business standard or premium license and you are signed in to the app with your Intra ID account, you've got the commercial data protections. And there is the safeguards that Microsoft will not train on your data. That's basically the two takeaways for this slide. So there's always been questions of, I don't have a CoPilot license. Am I safe to interact with a tool, although it's in the web? So that just gives you a bit of information there.
Just wrapping up, what do we do outside of CoPilot? We obviously provide licensing for CoPilot and advice on what license options there are as far as the different variations. Although I can't answer your question, John, because I don't know enough about the differences between those two. But we also provide leadership workshops preparing organizations for the upcoming impact of AI. There's a lot in there, and they tend to be sort of 80% pre-designed and 20% bespoke. We do training on CoPilot and general AI and general technical assistance with data prep, SharePoint reviews, assisting with agents, etc. So if you need help in this area, just let us know. Q&A, we are well over time. We are sorry. I'll just skip through some questions. Well, just straight on the I forget the radio term, but Flora has mentioned, can we use CoPilot in a similar way to auto and record meetings outside of Teams? The answer is no, actually, Flora, and it's something that is regularly featured. You can do, if you have, not going to help, I expect, with what you're hoping for, but if you can use Teams rooms. If you have a Teams room, you can use something for recording meetings ultimately, as opposed to having everyone in there. And it started to be able to personalize between the people, but ultimately CoPilot doesn't do in-person tech-free meetings like Otter does. So for context for people, if you record using your phone, you make just a general audio recording of a meeting, you can upload it to something like Otter and it will effectively do what CoPilot does. It will try and convert that into a summary or into notes, into a transcription. And it can't do that, Flora. Microsoft have been saying they're going to have something for that, but it's been about 1.5 years since they've been saying that, so not yet. Ian did ask a question about the ability to reference specific source files and use that for input into a presentation. It can, and that's one thing that has improved in the last 2 years. What I think Ian is asking, though, is can you say, use this document as a style guide? I have had success with that, but I've also found it did collect some content from that document as well. So probably similar to ChatGPT in that you have to be careful that it might take liberties with the sources, even if you tell it not to. But Microsoft have designed it so that you would more select a style guide rather than try and use a document as a style guide. John has commented that it's concluded you have the CoPilot chat, but not the full-blown Microsoft 365 Copilot. So thank you, John. I appreciate that. Maybe that's something we talk about separately. I'd probably need to get a better idea about what the what that version that you guys have is. Look, if you have any other questions, please send them through. Joe, are you able to paste in, if you haven't ready, the feedback form? I should have thought of that earlier. We're just going to put in the chat a feedback form. We'd love it if you'd fill it in, and just gives us a little bit of feedback, and also asks for you to suggest any future webinars. And that is much appreciated. And we really hope you've found this useful. And if you have any questions, feel free to hit us up or your account manager, and we will get some information out about the CoPilot Agents webinar in the future. And if anyone wants a recording of this, we can arrange it as well.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Joe. Thanks everyone for attending. We really appreciate it. Take care.